Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another unplanned class. The schedule is planned, but not the content. But I know what I'm teaching for sure. Pay attention inside, be happy, simple. Trying to center this a bit. Practicing last week's Siddhi BrahmaDeha. Put us in the mood of this class this week, BrahmaDeha. BrahmaDeha. Hi guys. BrahmaDeha. Breathe, relax. Even if the translator is not ready, I'm just gonna talk stupid things. Well, life lessons. There's a meme on the internet, a type of meme, which is in my 20s, I can fall off a roof and get away with just a little scratch, you know. And when I'm in my 30s, I am handicapped for 2 days because I slept in the bad position. Okay, so there's memes like this where you just sleep bad and it completely ruins you. And when you were 20, you could, I don't know, do a triathlon and get away with it. Well, yesterday I was crossing the street and the car was coming. I didn't want to make the car slow down for me or, change its ways. All I had to do was walk faster. So I just made a few steps like jogging because, I can. Ow! I can't. So basically I did a little tear in the muscle of my calf crossing the street. Which is nothing worth going to the hospital. But funny enough, the right calf. It's almost nothing. Like today I'm good. But yesterday was painful for the entire day. I found it funny. I'm not 50 years old, I'm going to be 50 years old in a few weeks. So I insist I'm not 50 years old. I'm not in my 50s. And this kind of stuff is sometimes happening. When I used to take the airport, take the plane, I went through the airport. I was speed walking once a week, intentionally, even if I have time, because I did my cardio in the airport. Then it was long walks in the city, some trips at the gym, because what is there to do sometimes in a hotel? Now, since I don't do seminars for a while, I go less outside. I don't go to the gym. I've done less. And yeah, if we care less about our body, it will get hindered, wounded more easily. So of course that little tear in the muscle happened, but I asked myself, I know the physical reason is that I don't use that calf to put intense pressure like jogging anymore. But what is the mystical symbolism of the right calf? I was practicing BrahmaDeha. Okay? And one thing that resists BrahmaDeha for me was the amount of activity I do to income it, which led me to a full stream of contemplation. What Brahma wants is to be manifest. Brahma, we say he exists in the first plane, but everything happens in the mind of Brahma, including us. We are events in his mind. Brahma doesn't want to stay away from creation. There is no duality in Brahma. So Brahma does not perceive creation like we do. We see creation as something that came out of Brahma. But Brahma perceives creation as something he becomes. Brahma does not separate himself from his creation by creating something else, because that's duality that starts to exist only in Vishnu. From the point of view of Brahma, Brahma becomes all things. And my little cow phone was that lasted only yesterday. Yeah, pretty good today actually. Cool. I'll go walk more. That resistance in my body was to remind me I was seeing Brahma as something separated than me. A simple human thing, of course. Brahmachitta, the first mistake we do in the ego is to think my mind is the mind of Brahma, which is accurate in the sense that everything is the mind of Brahma. But it is inaccurate in the attitude that we have when we say it, where we limit the mind of Brahma to whatever can fit in ours. It's a human reflex. We're egocentric, and we're afraid of what is beyond us. It's okay. It's natural. So since yesterday evening, I started to practice the Siddhi of this week, which is BrahmaDeha, the body of Brahma. Brahmachitta is the mind of Brahma. That I should practice not knowing the extent of where it can lead. And when I practice BrahmaDeha, reminded that Brahma wants to be manifest. He doesn't want to create by putting something outside of him. He wants to be his creation. He wants to manifest. So practice BrahmaDeha. First mistake we do, my body is the body of Brahma, which is accurate in the sense that everything is the body of Brahma. But it is inaccurate in the natural attitude that I would think of my body specifically as the body of Brahma, which limits it. Okay, BrahmaDeha. Yeah, D-E-J-A is for the Spanish people. Deha. In Romanite Skranrit, it's D-E-H-A. BrahmaDeha, the body of Brahma. So we contemplate the body of Brahma. We must not do the mistake of contemplating our own body. And we must not do the mistake of excluding our own body. Just don't focus on that aspect at all. BrahmaDeha, the body of Brahma, is absolutely everything manifest. To an unfathomable vastness. Una inmensidad incomprehensible for the translators. BrahmaDeha, the body of Brahma. BrahmaDeha, the body of Brahma. The revelation I'm starting to have, it's easy to understand intellectually, but to grasp the experience, it takes time for it to sink in. The revelation I'm having is that everything is Brahma. Okay, how can I better convey the realization? Everything manifest is still the primordial consciousness. There's no separation. The entire universal manifestation, everything created, is still the creator, BrahmaDeha. So Brahmachitta, we contemplate about the mind of Chitta, of Brahma, in the consciousness aspect. But it's also all things. In BrahmaDeha, we contemplate all things, but it's also consciousness. And again, the challenge is to be surpassed by something we cannot measure, except to be lost in the dimension of it. There's no dimension at this point. BrahmaDeha. Yes, exactly. We contemplate BrahmaDeha. We let it carry us beyond our comfort zone. It is a place I enjoy being, a state I enjoy feeling. BrahmaDeha. Of course, something will come in the way of these realizations, one of which is our fear of nature, our judgments of creation. Super challenging. My typical example of the jungle, when a lion kills a zebra, you go, poor zebra. But if you see a lion without food, dying of hunger, you say, poor lion. Do you see the challenge in this world of duality? From the Brahma point of view, there is no conflict there. There's a universal flow of resource, and we're so afraid of it, of this reality, this truth, because we are one of those resources flowing. We won't be eaten by a lion, we'll be eaten by nature, by time. As all things go back to the earth, and this resistance to things flow. We came out of nature, we absorb all we could of nature, and we wish to be in this eternal state of absorbing. First it's called growth, then it's called greed. Mourning is this aspect of flowing back in all things. It's scary because we don't conceive ourselves to be immeasurable like Brahma. We consider ourselves to be measured by our identity. BrahmaDeha, the body of Brahma, is all things manifests as a single stream of consciousness in all things. It comes in, comes out. So our reactions, our judgment towards nature and its process is something that will come in the way of the revelations. But if we know, even if we have not resolved everything inside us through personal growth, BrahmaDeha will bring the benefits of feeling this harmony, this unity with the world, where everything is not supposed to be scary. Everything is experimental manifestation. Do not let this make you indifferent. With the contemplation of everything just happens. Stuff lives, stuff dies, we grow, we fall, we decrease. The ego as an individual could think, well, I don't matter, therefore nothing else matters. So who cares if there's a war? or famine or sickness. You see, in Brahma's universal experimentation, there's this desire to discover how to do things. Then Vishnu comes in, with the experimental approach. And that means do your best, meaning you actually do something, hoping for better results. Yeah, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva all go together. So let not these realizations make you indifferent. Okay, I made a parenthesis about, from the point of view of Brahma, everything is Brahma. But from our point of view, everything is Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. We'll talk about this another time. Practice BrahmaDeha, the body of Brahma, just for the harmony with nature and for the revelations that would come. And let it carry you. After you've done some BrahmaDeha, in a few days, or today if you feel like it, alternate between both Brahmachitta, BrahmaDeha. The mind of Brahma, the body of Brahma. Because when I alternate Brahmachitta, BrahmaDeha, the first mistake I do is think that there's a difference between one and the other. Brahmachitta is our human way to address the consciousness part of all things. And BrahmaDeha is our way to address the manifest part of all things. But Brahmachitta and BrahmaDeha is not one is only above, the other is only below. There's no separation here. So see when your mind does that separation and let go into the mystery, in the thing we can't understand about it. And let Brahma show us one thing at a time. Brahmachitta, BrahmaDeha. I do recommend that today at least you practice only BrahmaDeha, the new Siddhi, the body of Brahma. Give yourself a chance to have just that revelation. And then when you feel like it, you start the alternation of both. Like I said at the beginning of last class, I'm not teaching a process. It's not anything planned. I'm letting myself inspired. Brahmachitta is what came. And then for today, BrahmaDeha. I don't want to start to intellectualize there will be Brahma something next week. I don't want to do that. I want to just stay with the revelation that just happened and not go into any systems. Spontaneity. Because that is part of the teachings of Brahma. It just happens. And then the mystery is revealed on its terms, in its way. And we have nothing to say about it except, okay, do it. Like I want it. And one of the ways to invoke the revelation of the Supreme Mystery is doing practices like Brahmachitta and BrahmaDeha. Deep breath. It's Brahma, B-R-A-H-M-A. Brahma. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Did I say Braham? I don't think so. Brahma. Someone suggested once again, like it happens every year, someone suggested that we should not call ourselves Buddhists because we're not Buddhists. Nothing we do is Buddhist. I'll answer this comment. The world today conceives Buddhism to be specifically Tibetan Buddhism, because Tibetan Buddhism is extremely known, followed by mindfulness Buddhism, popularized by Thich Nhat Hanh. So the Dalai Lama and Thich Nhat Hanh did wonderful jobs of making Buddhism known throughout the world. And now the public opinion, people in general, believe that the Tibetan and the Thich Nhat Hanh, the mindful approach, is Buddhism. And if we don't specifically fit in that, we can't be Buddhists. There are so many Buddhist traditions. I'm a Buddhist from the Pure Land with a Zen. You would say I have a major in Pure Land with a minor in Zen Buddhism. That's the tradition. The Hongoku Jodo is the Japanese tradition I was trained, which doesn't look at all like the Buddhism of Tibetan Buddhism or mindfulness Buddhism. Like most people would think Buddhism is mindfulness. The term mindful was used the first time in the story of Buddhism something like 50 years ago by Thich Nhat Hanh. The word mindful was never used in Buddhism for thousands of years. The first and most basic teachings of Sakyamuni Buddha is the Four Noble Truths. That's one of them. Starting with there is suffering, there's study of suffering, discovery, there's a healing of the suffering, and there is no more suffering. The Maharya is fundamentally based on that principle, which is the first teaching of the Buddha. To address suffering, find a method, resolve it, and be free from it. Free does not mean absent of suffering. It means not a slave of suffering. And usually we spend a lot of time without drama and suffering. So yeah, the Maharya is Buddhist because the most important part of the Maharya is the most important teaching of Buddhism, which is the Four Noble Truths. The 10 planes of consciousness, which is a tool that we use often, is a concept invoked by the Buddha in the Lotus Sutra, where he mentions creation in 10 aspects. Now we have made a parallel with Kabbalah and other systems, but it's fundamentally Buddhist. There's a lot of fundamentally Buddhist stuff in the Maharya, but on the outside we have not done the Tibetan approach or the Thich Nhat Hanh approach or the Vipassana, which is modern Buddhism today. I don't want to compete at all by saying Maharya is more Buddhist than the other traditions that are actually known throughout the world to be Buddhist. Absolutely not. I'm saying that the Maharya is Buddhist to the core. And Hindu Buddhist. Buddhism as it was approached when Buddhism came out, when Sakyamuni's teaching were first encompassed into a tradition after the death of Sakyamuni. Okay? We have a lot of Vajrayana practice. So because this year we're doing Siddhi, that person that suggested we rebrand Maharya, is like, call it Siddhi Yoga, Siddha Yoga, or call it just Maharya, but don't call it Buddhist. The Buddhists practiced Vajrayana, the recitation of mantras and mudra. If you contemplate the idea that Kujian is extremely present, and Kujian was Navamudrani, it was a Hindu practice using mudras and mantras, it was Tantra also, then we're fundamentally Buddhist as the first Buddhists did those practices. Last year, we spent an entire year in the Mahakaruna Dharani, which is identified as Buddhism, which uses mudras and mantras to achieve objectives. So once again, the fundamental core and the most popular practice of the Mahariya are Buddhists. And although it doesn't look like Buddhism according to today's new fashion, we are Buddhist, profoundly, deeply Buddhist. Okay? It just requires some understanding. I remain grateful for Tibetan Buddhism and the mindfulness Buddhism of Thich Nhat Hanh, because the techniques work and the wisdom is wonderful and it flows. If someone ever asks a question about why is the Mahariya called Buddhist when we don't do Buddhist stuff? Well, it's a question of who studied Buddhism in depth, or who just looks at the surface, or watches a documentary on some Discovery or Gaia channel or National Geographic's channel, which is, good sources of wisdom and information, but it only shows the popular Buddhism. Okay, so I wanted to answer this question because once again it was addressed, and I hope it is understood. We are so Buddhist that we can't remove the word Buddhism from Mahariya, because that's what we are. If we want to identify ourselves to a system of thought, we are Buddhists, yes. Now, thank you for your time. I'll remind you the practice this week is BrahmaDeha, and once you've done enough for you to be comfortable with it, do the alternation with Brahmachitta and BrahmaDeha. And look at the opposing forces. These are your opposing forces. If anything subtly in the mind, or more dramatically in your heart, resists or goes in duality, remember, that is not Brahma's duality, that is ours. So we use a practice to transcend that illusion, that mystery. All right, peace, guys. See you for another Buddhist class next week. Peace.